Every decade, the NBA produces a big man that changes the sport forever. And every single time, fans lose their minds. Nothing in basketball compares to a dominant big man. Not a flashy point guard, not a sharpshooter, but when a 7-footer takes over a game, the sport feels different. The NBA knows this. They've always known this, and they've spent 75 years chasing the perfect one. In the 1950s, it was George Mikan. So dominant, they literally widened the lane to stop him. But he was slow, and he couldn't move outside 5 feet from the basket. In the 1960s, it was Wilt Chamberlain. 100 points a game, 50 points per game for an entire season, and changed multiple rules. But he couldn't shoot free throws, and the three-point line didn't exist, so scoring was limited to the paint. In the 1970s and 80s, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The skyhook was unblockable, but outside of that one move, his offense was limited. One shot, one angle, and one weapon. In the 1990s, it was Hakeem Olajuwon, the Dream Shake, the most skilled big man the league had ever seen, could score from anywhere in the post, but couldn't step outside and shoot. The perimeter was off limits. In the 2000s, it was Shaquille O'Neal. Broke backwards, broke the league, the most physically dominant player in NBA history, but he couldn't hit a free throws. Teams intentionally fouled him as a strategy. The most dominant offensive force ever had a weakness that a 5th grader could exploit. Then came the one-flawed generation. Yao Ming could have been the most complete center ever, but China overworked him and his feet shattered. Dirk Nowitzki was the first big man who could really shoot, but he couldn't defend or protect the rim. Anthony Davis was the unicorn prototype, could score and defend, but couldn't stay healthy and couldn't be the #1 guy. Giannis added 51 pounds of muscle, became an MVP, but still can't shoot from the outside. Teams build a wall and dare him, and B was the most skilled big man since Hakeem, but he can't play more than 68 beings in a season. Every single one had a fatal flaw. Every single generation got closer, and every single time the NBA kept searching. Then something changed. The three-point evolution happened. Steph Curry broke basketball. Suddenly the most valuable skill in the sport wasn't post moves or rim protection. It was shooting from 30 feet. Teams went from averaging 15 threes per game to 35. The mid-range died. Post play died. Big men who couldn't shoot became unplayable. And the NBA realized something terrifying. The perfect big man couldn't just be big anymore. He had to shoot. He had to handle the ball and he had to pass. He had to switch onto guards defensively, and he had to do everything at guard belts at 7 feet tall. That player wasn't supposed to exist. Then Victor Wembanyama walked into the 2023 NBA draft. 7 feet 4 inches, 8-foot wingspan, and here's the part that breaks basketball. He doesn't have the flaw. He blocks shots like Hakeem. He led the NBA in blocks for 3 consecutive seasons. Won Defensive Player of the Year as the youngest recipient in league history. He shoots threes like Dirk. Hit a career-high 8 threes in a 50-point game at age 20. He passes like Jokic, averaging over 3 assists as a center who creates for teammates out of the post and the perimeter. He handles the ball like KD, faces up from the three-point line at 7'4", and attacks off the dribble like a wing player. He became the first player in NBA history to record 1,500 points, 700 rebounds, 250 assists, 250 blocks, and 100 three-pointers in a single season. And in the 2026 Western Conference Finals Game 1 against OKC, the team with the actual MVP, Wemby dropped 41 points and 24 rebounds in double overtime. He joined Wilt Chamberlain as the only players in history to put up 40 and 20 in a conference finals debut. He's 22 years old, and his playoff comparisons are to Wilt. The NBA spent 75 years trying to build this player. Every generation got one piece right and one piece wrong. Wendy got every right piece simultaneously. But here's where it gets interesting, because the NBA didn't just get lucky with Wembanyama. They were ready for him, and the franchise that drafted him was the most prepared organization in professional sports to develop exactly this type of player, the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are the most notorious player development program in NBA history. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manny Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard are all players who surpassed their ceiling under the most perfect system in the NBA of all time. The Spurs don't just draft players, they engineer them, and when they got the #1 pick in the 2023 draft, this was not by coincidence. They got the raw material for the greatest development project in NBA history. A 7'4" teenager with guard skills put into the best player development infrastructure in basketball. And Greg Popovich, the greatest coach in NBA history, extended his contract for 5 more years and $80 million specifically to oversee this project. A coach who could have retired chose to stay because he saw what Wemby could become. Now here's the money angle, because this isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about billions of dollars. When Wemby was drafted, the Spurs were valued at $2 billion. They're now worth $3.25 billion and climbing. He hasn't even signed his real contract yet. He's still in his rookie deal making $13.4 million. This summer, the Spurs were expected to sign him to a 5-year extension worth $252 million. If he hits his incentives, All-NBA Defensive Player of the Year, that number climbs to $303 million, but that's just his NBA salary. The endorsement money is where it gets insane. He already has deals with Nike, Fanatics, 2K Games, and Barcode. LeBron's lifetime Nike deal is worth over $1 billion. Wemby has 50 more years of playing ahead of him, plus another 20 years of post-career endorsement value. The first billion-dollar career earnings for an NBA player will certainly be Wemby. And the NBA itself needs him more than any individual player in league history. LeBron is 41, Curry's 38, and KD's 37. The league's 3 biggest global stars are aging out simultaneously. The NBA just signed a $76 billion media rights deal. We need a face to justify that investment for the next 15 years. Wemby isn't just filling that role, he's expanding it. His season opener drew a 63% viewership increase over the comparable game that year before. He became the first player in league history to generate 1 billion views across NBA social channels. International viewership of Spurs games on League Pass grew 77%. During a Tim Duncan era, the Spurs were a ratings black hole. The most successful franchise in basketball was also the most boring to watch on television. Wemby flipped that overnight. His 2026 playoff games are drawing 7.9 million viewers, making the Spurs one of the most watched teams in the league for the first time ever. He's not just carrying the Spurs, he's carrying the NBA into Europe. France is now the league's fastest growing international market, and it's certainly because of one player. The NBA has been trying to crack the European market for decades, playing games in London and Paris. No single player has ever opened an entire continent's wallet the way Wemby opened France's. Think about what the NBA has right now. A 7-foot player who can do things nobody in 75 years of basketball has ever done. On the most legendary development program in the sport. In the league that desperately needs a global superstar. With a Nivea rights deal worth $76 billion that needs to be justified. Everything lined up. The player, the franchise, the timing, and the money. And the scariest part, he's not done. He's 22 years old. NBA players typically peak at 27 to 28. LeBron didn't win his first title until he was 27. Shaq didn't become truly unstoppable until he was 28. The player who's already doing things nobody in NBA history has ever done thinks he still has a lot to learn. That is the scariest sentence in basketball right now. The NBA spent 75 years searching for the perfect big man. Every generation got closer, but every generation falls short. But they finally found him. He's about to sign a $300 million contract, he's driving billions in global revenue, and he hasn't even reached his physical prime. The search is over. The NBA found what it was looking for, and he's not even close to finished.